Hey everyone out there, how's it going? All of you beautiful people, all of you makers, all of you dreamers, all of you visionaries, all of you survivors, all of you people, to generalize. But yeah, I just wanted to say hello and thank you guys for tuning in. It's really an honor to read for a group of people that I'm not sitting in front of. It's very strange too, but yeah, it really is a special thing to be able to just kind of tune in like this every month and see what comes out. So welcome back, those of you who have been seeing me navigate doing this thing on YouTube. This is a reading for January 2021. I know the date, it's a little bit late, but that's the way that it is. And I'm wearing a watch today because I'm working on my relationship with time. I really just don't have much of a concept of it in the way that a lot of people seem to. And I know some of you probably do out there as well. But anyways, I'm going to try to keep this reading short, so I'm keeping an eye on the time, and but I will allow what's meant to come through to come through. I've kind of been taking some notes for this month already because there's been a lot of messages that have already come through, and a few of them just seem worth mentioning before I even pull any more cards, before we get into prayer, before we even go any farther along here. So yeah, I just wanted to thank you all for, kind of kicking it for the first week of this month. And now here we are together again. And yeah, I'm really excited to see. It really feels like this month there are some very specific messages for people, and I love how the complexity of messages get to come through and be like almost contradicting, but really not quite, because they're applied to these parts and these spheres of our life, right? And we get to put them together and decide like where these things line up and where they go. So anyways, when you hear a message and it feels like it really isn't for you, listen to that. Listen to what you're experiencing. And when you hear a part of a message and it does feel like it's for you, allow it to go into the place where it makes sense in your life. Like where is that message applied to? Because there is a lot of messages in here about fearlessness and just like taking these leaps of faith. And I would like to preface that that message that's coming through with be discerning on where you apply that message. You know what I mean? Really make sure that you're leaning into your own intuition. I always encourage other people to lean in that way and to let everything that filters through everything that's coming in filter through their own experienced sense of self. So anyways, that was just kind of what was coming through. And I feel like this goes with a lot of other things. Like if you've had I'm getting a message that if you've had other tarot readings or other, like someone did your astrology and they're saying like, oh, this thing's fucked up right here, this is gonna be da 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 da. Make sure that it's always going through your heart first, like your experience and like the matrix of your own understanding, because every single reader has a different way that they translate information. And so even the way that we see can be in a different tone or a different color, than like someone else maybe even seeing the same situation. So I don't know who that's for, but I'm sure there's a piece of that that's there for all of us. We really need to continue to trust ourselves no matter what psychic said, no matter what like the tarot said or the astrology report said. So with that, you know, as I'm going into this like whole what seems to be like this message of like taking a big leap of faith and being really fearless and not hesitating, there seems to be this message that is like, remember to tell people that they need to bounce these ideas back off of their own understanding and their own intentions and dreams, so that you know you're not making a choice out of fear, the one thing that you're kind of trying to like navigate away from in the first place, right? So anyways, one of the messages that was coming through a lot, I know I've had this on my altar for like the last couple of days now, because I just keep getting more messages about this. And it says that it's safe to fall. It is the card from this beautiful deck that I go in and out of using a lot, and then a little, and then a lot, and it's called the Kuan Yin Oracle deck. So anyways, there was a couple cards that came through from that deck over the last few days, and they are reminders to really utilize your courage and make sure that you're standing in the right place when you're dealing with your own fears. Like, be able to name what the fears are that you're experiencing in your body, and let yourself continue to embody and move through the fears that are there, because this is a practice that will go on for our whole life. And as we know, we've been jumped into a year that has you know, it really hasn't missed a beat so much with the way that last year unfolded. And there's no, like, I just don't think that there's going to be like some weird place that's gonna be a break in this dimension where like everything starts making sense. Like, all of these systems that are inherently oppressive are just gonna like start not bothering people or like fix themselves. So we have a really long road ahead of us, like, together. And you know, and a lot of us are out there like trying to change that and fix it, but nevertheless, we're going to be navigating fears and uncertainty for the rest of our lives, probably no matter what time period we ever were alive in. And this is a very different time, and I get that, but I just want to remind people that these are skills for life, to be fearless and to really face these things that are happening right now with all of your power and with yourself like fully embodied. And when we act out of fear and we hide parts of ourselves, I like keep looking at my notes because I'm like, oh yeah, what did I write? There's like all these downloads, right? But when we do that, we lose part of our power. Like, if we had you know, a battery that really needed to be charged up, it wasn't at like full capacity, that's what we're running off of when we aren't able to be fully in our power. And being fully in our power is being fully in our truth too. So when we deny parts of ourselves, we create huge chunks of this like cognitive dissonance that creates different realities that are really confusing to like live in simultaneously, but and B, cause like a shit ton of harm to others and to ourselves and all of that. But C, what the thing I'm kind of getting at that feels like a very neutral point, like not blaming or like pointing fingers at anything or anyone, but just to say that like C, we throw away so much power because we are not fully like embodied in our path when we are all over the place and not really fully experiencing the reality that we've created, right? So there's a really big push to, how do you get back on track, right? Okay, let's just start there. That's kind of what I'm hearing. one of the things that needs to kind of come up, and that is coming up because I see it coming up in the east right here, is that there's a beautiful technique that needs to be practiced that actually helps other people expand to a lot of other techniques that are helpful in speaking your truth. Things like being sure you're not like being a people pleaser, and monitoring that end of the spectrum, and then like monitoring kind of the other end of the spectrum, like totally shutting down and being not able to process the emotions that, and like communicate from that place. So there's kind of like these two points of like walls that we kind of reach when we're overwhelmed. And the card that came up in the position of the east that I'm reading here right now is about being really honest to what it is that you are experiencing, rather than dismissing it and putting it in a different place and being like, I'm not really feeling that, I'm gonna feel this, or something like that. And it's actually this really interesting card that helps us. It reminds me of the spectrum of emotions that are really like, when you feel them, they seem to actually help ground us into the experience we're having rather than take us away from it. Even though a lot of people, when they're going through things, they want to be kind of taken away from the painful or experience, the unwanted experience. But the way that you experience the spectrum here, it actually feels like it's actually really grounding and connecting to, to the earth. It looks like it's helpful for a lot of people to begin waking up and realizing that there are these other things that also have whole lives and experiences, like animals and plants, and just like waking up to listening to that, because they're feeling their own body experience its spectrum without closing it off or putting it somewhere else and creating this dissonance and disconnected frequency between the experience and the experiencer. So yeah, I feel like there is a really beautiful, almost like life-changing experience where somebody is like having an awakening or something like this, is what I feel. And there's a spectrum of multitude of colors and of sensations and truths that are kind of coming out almost of each energy center as they begin to tell and speak their truth. First and foremost to themselves, like allow it to be, but then as they realize how actually nourishing it feels to do that, they begin to speak it to others. And I see that being a thing that, like, when you think about doing it, it sounds terrifying and awful, but once you start doing it in that subtle way where you're just like kind of like, I'm going to name this emotion or something like this, like you start small, it begins being this very healing experience. And so what that's kind of like all circulating around is this card, the 10, which is it's safe to fall. And I think that a lot of us have fallen before, or failed, quote unquote, or considered losses, and they've hurt. I don't know if there is a way to ever really reassure someone that they are going to be not experiencing a loss. But I think that what this card is saying is that there are ways to experience things in really healthy ways that have much more to do with like the relationship you have with like something larger than yourself, or how deeply important it is to resonate with your truth and to like experience all of your reality. and your relationship with spirit, basically. Like those things supersede being afraid to fall, or being afraid to like take a job and have it be something you're not really liking, and then be like, oh no, now I have to quit and they're gonna think this, or like move somewhere and then have that somewhere turn out shitty, right? Like it's nerve-wracking, but the subtlety in which we listen to our own bodies and our own words and feelings around these changes that we are taking control and power back by making, they're seated in multiple dimensions of our life, and they're really important practices for us to do. So I'm seeing that this is also, and then we have fearless above this, which is 14, which is a 5. So I feel this like very, like somebody has a really clear message that they are supposed to take a leap, like make the jump, say yes to something, and it feels like kind of a big change, like moving, or an opportunity that they're kind of feeling like, dang, I don't know if I can commit to that though, but that they really feel like it. I feel like there's like, what do you have to lose in a way, and like just really go for it. That's what I'm seeing. The part about this thing about falling or whatever it is, or like taking a leap, is that you take a leap and you are traveling, you're flying through the air, right? Like that's what a leap is. You land at some point. But when I pulled this earlier, I was looking at the book, which I don't always read, but it was really interesting. One of the things that stood out about it was it said, you build your wings on the way down. You know, like sometimes you jump and you don't have your wings, or your energetic wings that really do live behind your shoulder blades. If you know, you know. Some people get a lot of knots in their muscles, and working those out helps a lot, because there are like these energetic things that come out of our shoulder blades, and that's just the way it is. So when we leap, sometimes we don't know that we have wings and that we can fly and that we can navigate these airy spaces of vast opportunity, and that we're going to direct ourselves into the places where we're meant to go. But once we do leap, they come out. It's instinctual. And so I'm just really hearing that someone needs to know that like it's okay to make the leap. Like put in your 30 days, or do your answer that calling that's been inside of you, saying like, we need to do this. Oh, I don't know. It's like that thing that you just keep feeling. Just fucking do it already. And come to terms with the fact that it might not be the way you want it to go, but there's really no such thing as it not being meant for you. You're gonna do it, and there's really no failing in that, because there's some lesson for you if you feel called to do it. But oh yes, and one thing else that was coming up is if you're feeling that sense of hesitation and you're like, well, how do I know the difference between, if I'm supposed to take the leap and my intuition is telling me, we're not sure about this, like maybe you should do a little bit more research or something. If you're feeling like you can't tell the difference between it's your intuition or you're just feeling afraid, one thing that was coming up with this card that kept saying was, do you feel like you have, are you hesitating because you feel like you might not have enough energy or something for it? Because if so, try resting a little bit. Like, go ahead and try it. Maybe a day, maybe a 10-minute nap. Like, maybe you're thinking about it a lot and someone just needs to, like, literally just go meditate or, like, lay like get horizontal and lay down and just be like, I'm tripping about this thing. I'm gonna lay here for 10 minutes and just do deep breathing. And then when I sit up and I feel like more energized physically and spiritually and mentally, oxygenated, you know, how do I feel about it now? Does it feel like a fear? Or does it feel like my intuition being like, don't fucking do that again? You know what I mean? Like, really analyze it once you're in a place where you're rested. Rest is really important right now. World be tripping out, you know? So, yeah. Anyways, I kind of prayed before. Usually I pray kind of in the beginning. But I was sitting here for a while just downloading. So, you know, if you're there, I listen to some of these YouTube videos too, and if you're paying attention, it's nice to just kind of say that you're open to hearing what you want, what you need to hear at this time. And yeah, my guides be chilling with me right now, already like talking my ear off. Let's see, so that's a lot. So yeah, these kinds of things, these the kinds of things that are happening that are pushing us outside of our comfort zone are really meant for that that transformation to occur. They want our guides, our ancestors, our beings and entities that are watching over us, and all of the plant allies that we've invited into our life, all of the like animal allies that speak to us on the daily, all of these helpers in the seen and unseen realms, they are rooting for our transformation right now. They're really, really there with us as we pray to grow and expand as well. So it's hard, I know, to go outside of your comfort zone, but there is an element here that's really saying like, how courageous can you be? It's really important to practice that right now because the world needs us at our most loving self so that we can be anchors and examples of how we want this ship to be steered. Because right now, there's a lot of other people with really strong passion that are steering it in directions that you might not agree with, but yet you're passive about. So let's be active about how we are working in our own personal self, our own personal relationships, and be quick to, you know, correct ourselves and be willing to transform. And that was kind of the card that was just popping out, was this transformation card, and just this image of like how I'm seeing and feeling like how when thunder beings come and bring change. And like, even when I think of like the Eight of Wands, I'm getting like this very Eight of Wands energy, like things change like that. You don't know how fast that it can go down. You lose someone you love, or, you know, like everything you think you had, you lost, or, you know, the things that we have to hold on to in the physical are these agreements. They're an illusion, you know, like they're an agreement and a contract with our eyes and with the rest of the people on this planet. The things that we can walk through and navigate this world with are much more deeper, unseen parts of ourselves. And that is real power. That is real, an embodied sense of your spirit living inside of your body. And that's where we are trying to practice the art of maintenance, the art of, you know, control for ourselves. And I think a big one is creation. There's a lot of there's a lot of like destroying going on right now. There's a lot of like cracking and breaking of the old matrix as we move into a different reality, you know, as our dimensions grow and expand and complexify. Is that a word? I don't know, it is now. But we are becoming able to really weave the old lessons in with the new. So if you're going through lessons, you know, like be really present with what those are so that they can become old lessons that are embodied, learned from, and you can go forward, because the lessons are never going to stop. But if you keep going through the same one over and over again, you know, it's time to really pay attention to what that is, especially if it doesn't make you feel very good, you know, and isn't giving you the results you want, like you know, things that people want to feel in their life, things that are important, you know. Anyways, that's kind of what's coming up. Oh, yes. And then I'm just kind of getting into this a little bit. I know people are way more farther advanced with the runes, but I felt like it was kind of just this time of year, and my mom's a really amazing reader and rune reader, so I've been kind of interested in exploring that a little bit, and I pulled a rune for us for this month, and it is Algiz. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Algiz, and it looks like this. It looks like this. Kind of like a person with their arms up a little bit. And the reference is also to the antlered animals. So probably most likely the reindeer, which is why I felt like this was a really appropriate stone energy, like entity, this Algiz, to come up into this reading, because we are kind of in that, we are in like the reindeer medicine time, for those of us who have blood that came from the north, which I'm trying to explore those practices more too. This is they're the protectors and the keepers of these like herd animals, and they do it in such a graceful, collective way. Like, I think it's really interesting how herd animals have really figured out how to work together. There's a lot of animals that don't run around in herds, and I think that just like animals, like there's a million different ways to do people and humaning, and there are much more solo creatures. There are much more like super like pack animal kind of people, but I think that at the end of the day, we know that we are meant to be in community, and that the herd animals have a really interesting way of moving through land and being more seasonally based, right? And like changing with the seasons. One thing that came up with that rune as well is that Algiz protects the horned ones, the ones who have antlers, and there is an element of the different, what did I write here? So something came up here, which it was like, it protects the antler ones. And sometimes when you're hiding, there can be two different sides to that when you're kind of hiding, which feels like it kind of reads into a little bit of that, like, not sharing your truth, kind of losing your power because you don't want to share your truth, because you're basically saying that part of your experience isn't happening, and it is. So you're like, it's a whole like you're draining your own battery, right? Because you're not sharing your truth. So there's this part of it, like, let's call that hiding. There's a part of this rune that what I'm getting from this is that when you're hiding, there's two different sides to it. You're both protected, kind of, because you're hiding, so you can protect yourself when you hide, and then you can actually put yourself in more danger because of the fact that you're hiding. And so there's like, it easily flips, and I think that it easily can be both, but pay attention to where you get yourself into a pattern where you thought that you were going to be protecting yourself, but you're actually now in feeling like you're in more of a precarious and uncomfortable situation, rather than safe and like warm and feeling great about shit, you're actually not feeling good because you hid or felt like you were protecting yourself. So I think maybe there's like an edge there, and it's saying to protect. And like the opposite of that, it's a really interesting message here, because there's like so much like irony or contradiction to it. So the other part of that is that when your arms are up, you know, like this rune, you're also like kind of in a state of surrendering, surrendering to what is. And there's a, surrendering to your own truth and the glory of what it is for you to be alive and experiencing life. And anybody who can get that is going to be someone you don't need to protect yourself from. And anybody who can, who is seeking to like, that you feel like you need to hide from, well, then like there might be danger in that. And so there's some sort of a relationship to, being fully embodied and being present so that you can reveal yourself and hold all of your essence together with like the full 100% of your battery, of your power, of your life force, of your chi, of your prana, whatever, of the mana, whatever you want to call it. Like you have 100% of that because you are fully present in it, in the reality of it. And I think there's something also along the lines of really making sure that you're in the right company in your herd, like where you get to be that safe. So I think that there's a lot of honesty with how we're experiencing other people right now and who it is that we feel the most safe around. Like, who do we feel safe, or who do we feel like we it doesn't mean that there can't be like fear there. Like it still takes courage, right, to like share yourself, and almost maybe with anybody there's an element of or rather a necessity for courageousness to share yourself. But who feels like absolutely like they're not a good idea? Like it's time to kind of maybe get rid of the easy like open door policy that you have with someone to be in your space when they continually making feel like you are not able to surrender into the moment. Anyways, I feel like that's someone from the past for a lot of you. Someone from like the past that was a really sticky situation. That's what I'm seeing. Someone who wasn't who they said they were, or someone who really isn't who you think they are, or who they think they are, which is even really confusing when, you know, people think that I don't know. Someone who's like super manipulative. That's what I'm picking up. So there's like something that someone's going through, that they are being really weighed down by someone who feels like they're not really honest, and manipulative, and maybe have their own interests in mind. So I want everyone to really be aware of what they're experiencing and where it comes up in their body. And then like look at this tripper right here. Like they're like feeling the vibe of this tree, feeling it, and like looking at these colors coming up, and really just like becoming one with the whole experience, the sensation of being connected to other living creatures. So I see it as a really positive thing, this attention that's going to go into the experiencing. Okay, moving forward. I want to see what else comes up about these. Let's see what's up with community. Wow, the cards are just flying out everywhere. That's too many though. Okay, this one's come up twice though. As you're transforming, seek understanding. Don't wrestle with what is happening the details of it so much as you put your energy into this larger goal of trying to understand where either things come from in yourself or things come from in another person. That seems to be very related to this like trapped feeling, and this is kind of the way that comes out. You see this? There's like this bird kind of opening its wings, being like, I'm gonna seek understanding. I'm gonna try to understand what this means and share. And there's like all these other birds just waiting on the other side, being like, finally, yeah, you've been in a cage, but the door's been open the whole time. And you want to understand how flying and how air works, but you need to take a leap to understand it. Like if you want to seek to understand it, you gotta go. You have to go. And you have to trust that it's going to be what it's meant to be because you feel like doing it. And that's it right there. Like if you feel called to do something, it's probably because you need to experience whatever the lessons were. And if you're afraid that lesson's gonna kick your ass, I don't know, maybe you need your ass kicked. Like sometimes it be like that. And this one here just means that in all of the transformations, like coming from a softer place here, in the midst of intense recovery or transformation, we are rising and expanding our consciousness sometimes. But sometimes it looks like we're going really deep, dark into childhood trauma, into like understanding patterns of behavior in ourselves. And sometimes it doesn't look very healthy for a little while. I do see that there is supposed to be an intentional focus on just seeking to understand what that's about. So there's like a lot of starting points here that I'm picking up for the collective. Yeah. Okay. So another thing that is popping up, and I was kind of feeling this earlier, but I really, really love how this card is coming into this reading, especially in the position it is. It's just speaking of a deeper connection to your way of looking at the world. We're talking a lot about experiencing reality here, and I am not trying to get philosophical about this. Like, I want this to be embodied information that is relatable to you all, and that it has a resonance with something you can do as you move forward and get out of this YouTube video, right? Like in your life. But this card here is about abundance, and I think that it is just speaking a lot about, we all need to be really, really in our we need to make it a part of our flow and a part of the way we breathe and speak about how much we do have. How much we do have. And the love, the community, the food, the sunshine, the comfortable place we get to lay our head every night. Like, there's a lot of things that we have that we could sit there and just bliss out and be like, wow, I'm so grateful for that. Like, how did I get so lucky, you know? And I think we all need to be doing that a lot more as we move forward, because it's building an energy resonance with this idea of things being good in our sphere. And we all know that there's a lot of fucked up shit going on, and we need to make sure that we are holding ourselves and carrying in ourselves in a way that is also translating to the rest of the world, that we know what the flavor of good is too, and we are going to sit there and choose to taste that every day, and to be present as we're doing that, right? Like, to use our presence to appreciate the abundance of beautiful things that we have in our life. And I think that this, like, these two together, I don't know, it just kind of reminds me of like a really beautiful mushroom experience, or some kind of like psychedelic experience where like guards get let down because we're actually fully experiencing the beauty and the oneness of the world, and we're realizing that we might not have things as bad as we thought we did. We've just been watching the news too much, and we've just been focusing on the things that are truly wrong and messed up and don't taste good in our heads or in our hearts. But we haven't been dedicated to making sure that we are doing more talking about the abundance of beauty around us and in our life. And when we stop doing that, we basically stop strengthening the bridge and the channel between us and spirit, because nature is a perfect example of how things work together in harmony, and we need to always be reminding ourselves of how, where do we see examples of how to have good patterns, good relationships, harmonious interactions. Like, where do we see these patterns? We look around and we see them with plants, birds, we see them with all of these things. We're not necessarily removed from that, but our minds are so incredible that we have created a reality that isn't very healthy or sustainable. And we can point our fingers at other people over there, but if we're not actively taking our part in how we're shaping and creating the reality we choose to live in every day, then we aren't doing a part really at all in changing that. So I'm seeing that a lot of you have homes. They might not be what you want, but they're better than what a lot of people are sitting in right now, you know, in the fucking rain. And I see a lot of you probably have like at least a phone or a computer if you're watching this shit. So that's pretty amazing. And a lot of you have the privilege to be looking up wellness stuff or tarot videos or medicine work or healing work or all of that. Like, you have access to that knowledge. And so I want us all to like really just take a minute and be like, okay, how can we use the privilege that has gotten us here and amplify that abundance that we get to experience in our lives? Like, how do we amplify that so that other people can have that too and be in that place? I always get like closer and closer to the camera, but anyways, I just wanted to really push that message through, because that is what's coming up. And then yeah, I think that we have like, I think that there's like there's like a lot of inner child wounds to heal when we face where we have resistance to being super grateful for what we have. Because I think that sometimes people have a hard time when that voice that like didn't have enough and didn't have what it needed isn't heard. It kind of is like kind of yelling through time and space to pay attention to it. So we do need to tend to the places that really didn't have abundance in certain areas when we were younger or when we were older, or safety, or all these things. Like, that is real and it needs to be tended to like in the category that it belongs in. The other categories of like, hey, I forgot about my tea, but like I have this amazing tea that my friend made, and like how blessed am I to have that? Like, that has nothing to do with when I didn't get my needs met when I was a kid. And we need to really start tuning into and really paying attention to our experience so that we can know where things are coming from. And that's going to really help us understand where a lot of these fears come from when we're trying to make decisions that are really exciting, that we feel a lot of resistance and fear, and we don't know if it's our intuition, or we don't know if we're going to, create more suffering in our life or create like the best thing that's ever happened. We're going to be able to walk through that when we know where those fears and where the uncertainty and resistance comes from. And one of those is to be sure that you're, it's all like a dodecahedron, like 10-sided approach. Like, we look at it from every angle, and we need to make sure that these needs are met. And one of them is to appreciate what we do have so that we can really tap into the abundance that is around us. while creating more, and while creating more for others too. I am going to close this reading soon. I just want to see a couple more things on this side. Oh yeah, I was going to throw these. Well, 45 minutes, it's okay. Hey, if you haven't liked this video, no pressure, but I'd really appreciate it. And if you would like to subscribe to my channel, then you can catch these as they come along, because you can stay informed and set your, like, I don't even know what it's called, notifications, yeah, to know that when I post new videos, like, that are outside of the monthly, which I might be randomly doing on a full moon or a new moon. So yeah, thank you. I really love and appreciate each of you for tuning in and staying this long. Thanks for being here with me. Yes, okay. So big deer, elk, moose, reindeer energy. And we have the deer, and this is about trusting your instincts to guide you through what's happening. And this is a really important time to pay attention to your dreams and your visions that you hold for your life and the ones that you receive at nighttime. It's really time to free ourselves from guilt and shame about who we are, who we've, how we've acted in the past, and just make sure that we are leading the future and clearing up our energetic residue and facing those things with love and compassion in ourselves. On the left side, I'm seeing that it is also it's time to rest. If you've been going hard and wanted to jump into this new year and have already been caught up in like all the news and everything, like, make sure that you're continuing to rest and make room to nourish yourself. Yeah, it's still winter, guys. It's still time to like sit by the fire and make tea and write in your journal and really be thinking about how your experience is going and what you would like to shift about it, what you're grateful for, and paying attention to your dreams and visions so that you can manifest them and so that they don't get lost in the ether. Those things rest in the air sometimes, and I feel like there's so much air going on in here. I mean, maybe we are going to be going into Aquarius, you know, in the monthly cycle, but we're entering into the age of Aquarius. I think that there's a lot of these visions and things that are held in the air. Like, she's literally like flying through the air, ready for the grace to be like kind of help her land appropriately. And this fearlessness is also flying through the air, being really courageous but going for it. And this whole piece of the understanding and the transformation is the need to really break out of these prisons that we build around ourselves or that we find ourselves in, and finding the way out of that through the courage that it takes to kind of release our beliefs and agreements to these beliefs, right? There's a lot of trust that this is going to take for us to take these leaps, but I think we're all going to be taking these together. So anyways, that is it for now. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'm going to burn a little of this osha root, bear root, and get really grounded here. And I wish for you all the same. Much love. Thanks for tuning in.